There we go. Can you hear me, Josh?
Yeah, what's up, man?
Perfect, bro. Welcome to the show. I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm good.
Yeah. What'd you think about yesterday's RFK hearing?
Dude, ever since Trump was sworn in, and honestly, since the election, I just haven't really been paying attention to anything, man.
That's good.
Like
Yeah.
I got business stuff I gotta handle. There's the vibe shift. I feel like everything's going in our direction. We're winning.
Yes.
Like I don't need to be stressing about any of that stuff. Like what will happen will happen. But I feel good. But what happened?
So much shit. Um, what happened? I think I don't know. One of the big things that I noticed from RFK is he knows his shit for
Yeah.
sure. He knows how to handle that stress. A lot of people don't like him. I don't think it's not that people don't like him, but people are scared that he knows the truth. Senators are scared that he knows the truth. Um, I think that's why a lot of senators went and attacked him very harshly. Um, but we live in a good timeline, bro.
Yeah. A lot of
Yes.
those people have a lot of money coming from dark places, and I'm sure
Yes,
it's in their best interest to keep him as far away from
for
power as
sure. I
possible.
think I think everyone noticed that yesterday,
Yeah.
like really, really well. Let me just organize. Okay, perfect, bro. Yeah, thank you for coming on the show. I did not know there was another Sport Drink co-founder um, until I interviewed the other Josh a couple of months ago, and he told me about another Josh being uh, in this Sport Drink thing. So I want to talk about that. I think I first want to understand. Well, first of all, if you can introduce yourself for people who don't know who you are. Um, who are you and what you do a little bit on that.
Yeah, so my name is Josh. I live in Los Angeles. My house did not burn down,
That's good.
thankfully,
That's
but
very
I
good.
have been out of town for the past like 2 weeks or so trying to avoid the air quality as much as possible.
Yes.
Yeah, I basically have been guiding people on how to detoxify their home environment because through the course of my study in this alternative health space, I've come to realize that siblings, family members, in laws, friends, there's a lot of like when you're in the Twitter sphere, like it seems like everybody knows everything
Yes.
and you're preaching to the choir, but
But outside
you
that echo chamber, there's
yeah,
nothing.
you step outside or like I was just at family's house last week and they have like black plastic cooking utensils and all kinds of stuff that I just don't want to be around. I don't want my toddler to be around. I don't want them using.
Right.
So I wrote a book. It's called Toxic, a comprehensive guide to a healthier home. I'll show it here.
Okay. I'll link that below. That
And
was really cool.
the reason I wrote this is because I wanted, like, I had all of my friends and family coming to me being like, oh, can I use this? What do I use instead of this? What is this bad? Is this good? How is this? I had all these questions coming at me all the time. And just out of like, I don't know, I wanted to compile everything into one thing that I could just be like, here, just read this, listen to the audiobook.
And stop asking me questions.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm here to help. Like
Of course.
anybody listening to this, you send me a DM, I will do my best to guide you in the right direction. Like everybody getting better helps everybody. Like
Yes.
I want to answer those questions, but I also wanted something where, my in-laws, friends could read it. Like people I'm not around that don't have access to me or whatever. So it's super basic. A lot of your listeners will probably be familiar with most of the stuff in the book, but
Mm-hmm.
the main reason is like if your parents are constantly asking you, if your siblings, if your coworkers are curious, like just send them the book and be like, look, like you don't need to bother me anymore.
Yes.
This will give you a pretty solid foundation to build from. And
Okay.
then once you're up to speed, we can go through the nuances of different things. But I just really wrote it to be as helpful as possible, something to give people I care about.
Yeah. I love that. So, how did you get into that niche, first of all? I mean, not only it is unfortunately a little bit rare to be health conscious. I hate putting it in that way, but
Yeah.
I think from 100% of the people that I've interviewed here, it's because they took their health for granted, including me. They took their health for granted to a certain point until that was impossible, right? I mean,
Yeah.
something had to show you that that was important. So, how did you become health conscious? And how did you find this like detoxing the house niche?
Yeah. So my story is kind of the same. I did sports and stuff in high school and in college a little bit, like, non-college sports, but just like with friends and stuff. But then moved out to LA, was really focused on music, acting. I was building sets for photo shoots and stuff, smoking cigarettes all day, every day. And I'm blessed, or was blessed, with a pretty good metabolism. So I never like got overweight or anything. But
Wow. Okay.
when I was 28, I went to Hawaii with my wife and some friends, and I posted a photo on the beach, and a really good friend of mine commented 6-minute abs on the photo because I had like kind of a skinny fat like pooch going on.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that immediately, for me, I was like, I'm almost 30. I'm out of shape.
Wow.
I'm
Wow.
not like I'm not like experiencing any sort of like chronic health issues or whatever, but my back hurt because I didn't have the musculature to support
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
Like, just I was like, look, I need to like wake up. Like, I'm not getting any younger.
Yeah.
So I just got into fitness, and I really was like, why have I not been doing this since I was like 18, basically?
Right.
And just fell in love with it. And then I I'm like an obsessive learner. Like, I find a topic and I just dive head on into it. So that just led to supplementation and diet, and then onto things like what I'm doing now, where it's like toxic chemicals, toxic clothing.
Yes.
And so after I was doing the set design stuff from basically like 2014 up until 2020, I've been doing clothing manufacturing
Okay.
for people. So I'm very familiar with the fabrics and the processes, like the dye processes, the production processes,
Okay.
the waste, the chemicals used, and all of that. And I was seeing these guys like one of my favorite contractors that I worked with died of cancer during COVID.
Wow.
But I guarantee you it's because he was in such a caustic, poisonous environment in the dye house for like
I
40
see.
years, just
Okay.
breathing all of that stuff in.
Okay.
So that's sort of like all of that culminated into me just wanting to help other people, really. Like, and I was thinking, like, look, I'm not the most jacked guy, I'm not the most in shape guy, I'm not the most religious with my diet, I'm not an expert in supplementation. Like, I'm drawing all this information from everywhere, trying to learn as much as possible, but I don't have degrees, I don't have personal training certification, any of that stuff.
But you're based.
Right. And I was like, how can I help? And people
Yes.
were coming over to my apartment or my house and being like, what's that air filter for? Or what's this cleaning stuff that you're
Mhm.
using? Or why
Okay.
are you washing your fruit with this? And I was like, going over to friends and family's places and seeing all this bullshit like in their houses. And I was just like, people need to know about this stuff. Like, regular people who aren't like in the echo chamber on X
Yes.
need to have their eyes opened a little bit. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I got to where I am.
I love it. Yeah. So I hate saying health conscious
Yeah.
because I feel like you'd agree with me, but because it's just being human,
Yeah.
simple stuff. Um, but I was gonna add, like me as someone in this echo chamber, if you came in my house, you would expose the fuck out of me in Twitter. I mean, that's why I kind of like asked you, how did you get into that niche? Because I'm very sure I'm not the only health bro that does not understand how toxic my environment is.
Yeah. But look, I say it in the book. I open the book up being like, look, I'm not here to judge you. Like,
Yes.
I do not expect you to get online and buy everything that I'm talking about. I don't expect you to solve everything, even in a year. There are
Yes.
still things in my house that I can't avoid that are plastic or synthetic in
Blue
some
light,
degree.
whatever.
But the mentality that I try to talk about in the book is you got to take baby steps in anything that you do. And the more forward progress you make, the more you'll learn and the more opportunity you'll have to
Yes.
stop bringing those things into your environment. And over time, you'll look back and be like, wow, I made a significant change. But I know full well that it's impossible to change everything about everything. And you
Okay.
shouldn't try because you're just going to be like, oh, like, I'm a lost cause. Like, there's no way I can fight modernity or whatever. Like,
Right.
we all have cell phones, we all have Wi-Fi. Like,
Right.
these are things that ideally we wouldn't have to be dealing with, but
Yes.
you just need to pick the things that are most influential and the most impactful and start there and make small steps. Like, I structured the book in a way where it's like air and water are the first two. Like, you handle those, you're better off than 90% of the people, So there are other things that are in your house that you need to take care of, but the water you're drinking every day, the clothing you're wearing every day, the air you're breathing every day, these things, there's like a bit of a hierarchy that I kind of walk people through. So like if you came into my house, I'm sure you would find a couple things that you're like, what is that doing here?
Right.
And vice versa. But like, I'm not done and neither are you,
Yes.
but you're trying to move in a positive direction. And that's the most important thing in my mind.
Yeah, I love that. What do you think one should start in a modern home environment to detox that environment? What do I do so my house, where I sleep, where I eat, where I chill, doesn't try to kill me?
Yeah. I think the water and the air are the biggest two. Like, you cannot be drinking tap water. You
Mm-mm.
cannot be breathing like okay, look, if you don't address any of the synthetic stuff, that's going to be in the air as VOCs. So you need to be filtering that to some extent. The
Wait, what
easiest
does
way to
that
do
mean?
that, volatile organic compounds like off-gassing of plastic,
There's just
all
shit
that's
running around my house like that in the air? Oh, wow, I didn't even know that. Okay.
yeah. So like the easiest way to do this is just change your HVAC filters, upgrade the MERV rating, which MERV is basically 0 to 14, I believe, the strength of how much it's filtering. I think hospitals use MERV 13 or 14. But just that's going to move more air than a little standalone filtration unit. And those filters are cheap. You can get them anywhere. You can get them at Home Depot or Amazon, whatever.
I have zero filters.
You do. You just probably don't know where they are. That's another thing. Like, look for vents. If you haven't changed the filter or you don't know where it is, you probably should change it.
Bro,
Um,
I'm very sure there's not a filter. That's trippy. Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
do you have air circulating in your place?
We just got ACs this summer because this summer was really, really ugly this
Yeah.
year. But I haven't used the AC since summer, so I know there's some moldy shit going on.
Yeah.
But that's the only system that's kind of been installed in my house.
Okay. Yeah. So if you don't have central air, you wouldn't have an HVAC system and you wouldn't have the filters. But as far as the independent AC units, if it has a fan option where it's
Yeah.
not cooling, I would recommend you keep that running because that's going to dry out any sort of moisture in the unit that's collecting there after you're running it on AC, and it'll prevent mold growth inside of it. But that unit should have a filter itself that you can probably wash off in the sink,
Okay.
is what I'm guessing. But yeah, air and water, like any source of water that you're drinking in should be filtered. Any source of water that you're showering or bathing in should be filtered. And then once you've got those two covered, like I said, like you're going to be better off than 90% of the people on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And then think about what are the things in your house that you use the most? Like, ideally you're getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So your bed,
Yes.
your sheets, what materials are is your bed made out of?
Mm-hmm.
I switched to, and this is because I co-sleep with my toddler. I switched to a Japanese futon bed so he can't roll off and drop on the floor. But
Okay.
it's cotton, wool, and bamboo mats. And I've got linen sheets or cotton sheets, and that's it. There's no synthetic materials there.
Yes.
You know, I'm not saying go throw away everything in your closet that has polyester in it,
Mm-hmm.
because what's more important is the place that you're rolling around in for 7 to 8 hours. So get some natural materials on your sheets and your bedding. Start replacing these things over time. Like, oh, I've had my mattress for 10 years. I need to get a new one. I'm going to go find one from a place like Avocado Mattress, or there's a place I have a bed from, CB Wood Furniture, that makes a 100% natural, no metal bed frame, mattress, and everything. Like, take the opportunity when things need replacing to go through and find an alternative, you know?
Okay. Yeah. I love that. How do you? I think I saw something like real estate related in your Instagram.
Yeah. So I have my real estate license in Los Angeles. I got that during COVID when everything was locked down.
Right. So you
I just
kind of
wanted to stay
understand
moving.
how a house works, right? That also helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when did this home detox journey start?
It kind of started in COVID. I was looking to get out of the clothing manufacturing,
Right.
and so I just started building it up. I've been on Instagram for a while, and I kind of have moved over to Twitter because I feel like the people here are just more in line with what I'm trying to do.
Yes.
And it's time well spent on the platform, as opposed to Instagram. You're just kind of like cutting through noise, and I don't know. It's been a breath of fresh air moving over here. My following is not huge over here. That's fine. Um, but again, like, if you reach out to me, anybody, like, DM me any questions, like, I'll be happy to help you solve your problems.
Yeah. So I'm
Um,
sure getting started with this journey during COVID taught you so much more than it would have been in any other time since you were in your house all day, no?
I actually wasn't in my house all day. I was not worried about catching some mysterious disease from China as much as most people out here were.
Okay.
So I was working for an atelier, is what they called it, where people would come to us and we would make their brands from scratch. And they all decided to dip out to Florida, back to
Okay.
freedom
Yeah.
during lockdowns. So I just got a delivery job and made a ton of money because everybody was just staying home delivering everything, and there was
Right.
no traffic in LA.
Right.
And I just used that time to do a couple different clothing brands for some people and really flesh out this idea of what I wanted to do moving forward. But yeah, I basically didn't stop working during COVID. If anything, I got busier.
Okay. That's great. That's great. Clothing and what you know now through polyester, how do you see that world differently?
I think everybody kind of understands, like, the polyester plastic thing. That's not hard. You can pull up a video on YouTube of them crushing plastic bottles and
Right.
blending it into mush and making fabric.
Right.
You know, that's pretty easy to wrap your head around. I think the thing that people that maybe is a little more esoteric is just like things, and this goes for a lot of different products. Greenwashing. You may have heard of
Yes.
this, where you go into a supermarket and it's like cutesy branding with flowers or leaves on it, and they want you to think it's healthy, right? But it's
Mm-hmm.
just the same shit in a different package.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that bamboo and viscose are kind of these greenwashed fabrics that they sound nice on the face, like, oh, this is made out of bamboo, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But like bamboo, for instance, is soaked in a variety of chemicals so that it's turned into mush, and then it's
Interesting.
flattened into paper, and then they shred that and spin it into yarn. And yes, you can say, okay, like bamboo grows like a weed. It's probably better than using a plastic bottle, but it's still going through a chemical bath, you know?
Yes.
So it's things like that that I've just seen behind the curtain on. Like the dye house I was talking about. You can take a 100% cotton t-shirt and then dye it in industrial dyes that cause cancer.
Yeah. Oof.
And who's to say how much of that is rubbing off into your skin? Like, like everybody does, you wash a black t-shirt on hot, it's going to come out a little less black.
And you sweat on that bitch too.
Yeah. So that to me is like like I was saying before, like get the big things covered and then work your way down to the more intricate things.
Yes.
Like I'm wearing a cotton hoodie that's been dyed blue. Like I'm not going to say don't wear colored clothing anymore,
Okay.
but that's something where if you can source your clothing from better and better companies that are using natural dyes, etc.,
Yes.
like you can move in that direction, but that is probably less important than making sure you're showering in filtered water
Yeah.
or you're bathing your kids in filtered water or you're drinking filtered water,
Right. Right. There's so much stuff. I was about to record a video for what I'm doing about tap water, fluoride, poo, chemicals making the frogs gay.
Yeah.
So many heavy metals, just everything that's washed down there. It's disgusting. And it's, it's like, it's legal,
Yeah.
which is crazy,
Yeah. Hopefully not for long, but we'll see. I mean, that's the thing is we all want the modern conveniences of turning on the water faucet and something comes out. But you got to think like logistically about that. If you want to get water into everybody's house and you don't want to accidentally like poison 250,000 people, is it easier to just like drop a antibacterial compound in that water supply? Like, yes, it makes sense from the government's perspective to do something like that. But I would say it's your responsibility after they do that to make sure that you're removing that stuff from your water. So it's just like the modern conveniences thing, like if you want ease of convenience and you want everything to be easy, then you're going to have to take the rough parts of that deal.
Right.
If you want to be completely off grid and independent and grow your own food and get your own water from a well in a wooden bucket and make your own clothing and everything, you're going to be busting your ass 24/7. And I think a lot of people have this idea of the homestead or the self-sufficient lifestyle in the back of their head that is something that they're aiming towards, which is good. I'm not saying it's not, but I don't think they factor in the amount of responsibility and work that comes with that,
Of course. Yeah. That convenience point is very interesting. It is kind of that like comfort and convenience, maybe one of the reasons why we're so fat and diabetic today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're sitting in your office chair all day, like you can't expect to be building muscle mass,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I want to touch on sport drink.
Yeah.
I was very caught. My attention was caught because of the sport drink because of your guys' like marketing. The vibrant colors, how the message is pushed or the movement, whatever. Selling shirts, calling Gatorades retards. I love that so much. That really, that was like, wow, someone's doing something here, and they're really doing it. Like, they're really doing what they want. They're not doing anything to please the market. How most hydration products do so. So yeah, how did you get started with sport drink? I fucking love the idea of the name too. Josh talked to me about it. It's just like sport drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you said, you spoke to Josh, so I hope I'm not repeating myself too much, but he basically has been doing a podcast for a long time. We've known each other for a while, and we've worked on various things together. And he tweeted one day, like, why doesn't somebody just make products like how they used to? Like
Yes.
now's easier than ever to like come up with an idea and do something. And I think he mentioned how Gatorade is just toxic sludge now.
Yeah.
And I reached out to him and I was like, why don't we just do this? Like, it's easy. Like, I already know what we need to do. Like, at that time, I had created a formula for myself, and I was like, all this needs is some tweaking. And
Like a personal formula that you were using. Okay.
yeah, I was like, all this needs is some tweaking, and we can turn this into what Gatorade used to be, like,
Yes.
without poisoning people and without using fake sugars and preservatives and food dyes and all that plastic packaging and everything. So we were like, okay, all right, let's just do it. And so it took us a while to source a few things. It's hard to find ingredients that aren't mixed with stabilizers or synthetic materials or anything. Like, I know LMNT just has been going through that huge maltodextrin unveiling that they've been hiding. And every electrolyte company you see on the shelf, save maybe a few, is they're using stevia or monk fruit.
Yes.
Or something. That was a part of it too. We were like, why does everybody need to use stevia? Like, it tastes awful.
Oh,
and
horrible.
It has potential like negative health effects. Like, I think
I got
indigenous tribes
diagnosed by IBS because of stevia.
Yeah. Like, I'm pretty sure indigenous tribes have been using stevia as a contraceptive for like centuries. So like, do I want my wife drinking anything with stevia in it? Like, why would I launch a product with that in it? You know?
Right.
We were just like, why is nobody doing the right thing, really? Like, that's kind of the ethos. Like, everybody's cutting corners because of the profit margins. And just like I wanted to educate people with the book, people are just completely unaware of all of the crap that's in everything.
Yes.
Like, reading labels is one thing, but if you can't pronounce the ingredient, are you going to really be intellectually curious enough to like look into what that thing is? Or are you just going to be like, well, it's on the shelf, so I'm sure it's okay for me,
Yeah.
And we just wanted to be like, look, like, we're not going to lie to you. We're not going to put anything in this that we wouldn't want to put in our own bodies or feed to our own children or family members. Like, we're going to keep this as pure as possible, and we're going to make it do what Gatorade is supposed to be doing without the extra stuff. So yeah, that was kind of like the whole thought process. And as far as like the branding and everything, the designer we're working with is extremely talented, and I will give the credit to him as far as that goes. But the voice and everything, that's just us being unabashedly ourselves,
Right,
just
exactly.
not apologizing, not kowtowing to the normies, not trying to please everybody. Like, any successful endeavor, you're going to make some enemies.
Yes.
And I won't say we're actively trying to make any enemies except for maybe Gatorade, but like, we're not everybody's cup of tea at this time, because we're not apologizing for speaking the truth. And I think, like I mentioned with the vibe shift earlier, I think a lot of people they have courage now to speak their minds and be more outspoken about what they believe in. And we just want to be pioneering that so that other brands can come out and be like, yeah, like, I want to make tables like out of just fucking wood. Like, I just, like, whatever it is, whatever business you want to start, do it. You can build your own life. You can build your own brand. And there are people that want to get back to the way that things were made, simpler things that are not going to poison you. There's a huge market for that. And we're not even doing this like, okay, let's sit down and have a brainstorm. Like, what does the market want? Like, we're just doing what we want.
Yes, that's what I love about That's what I love most about what you guys are doing. That's what I was caught by it. Did you make the shirt?
Yeah.
I love it.
I didn't design it. Again, our designer is
Yes.
extremely talented, but I actually did physically make the shirt. Yes.
Okay. I love it. What about the formula? That's something that Josh couldn't talk to me about. I'm very curious why the formula is the way it is.
Okay, so I can't tell you everything because
Yeah.
then, there's obvious reasons why, but
Yes.
there's nothing hidden in it. I'm not trying to keep anything from anyone. The sourcing was extremely hard because most of the ingredients that people use are cut with maltodextrin or stabilizers or flow agents that are synthetic,
Yes.
like silicon dioxide and things like this. So honestly, that took us about a year to
Wow.
find everything, and it was worth it. Like that's the kind of work that needs to be done when you're trying to do something the right way. Like it's not going to be easy,
Yeah.
but the formula is essentially based on, again, a formula I had that I was using for electrolytes and water fasting. And then we looked at what information we could find about what Gatorade was using when they were invented by a couple chemistry students at the University of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very similar to what we're offering.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's kind of how we got to what we have now. We're not food scientists. We just know what needs to be in there.
Yes.
And we made it taste nice. And that's like, it's effective. Like everybody that we've given it to, we've given it to pro NHL athletes, we've given it to pro NBA athletes. There have been a ton of people from all realms of sport that are reaching out to us. Like we're not even doing much outreach ourselves, but they're asking us like, when are you guys going to be back in stock? I shared this with my teammates. Like this works. Like I need more of it. This got me through training camp.
Yes.
Those kind of like, when high performers are finding that it's working, like that's what makes us the happiest. Like that's who this is for. And obviously, you and I are not going to go pro in basketball. I'm not 7 feet tall, but
Yeah.
I'm still going to use it, and it's going to be just as effective for me as it is for them. So that's kind of, I mean, if you have any more questions, like I can see if I can answer them, but it's not super complicated. It's just what your body needs. We're not afraid to use sugar because you need sugar, you
Right.
need carbs,
I
you need to
wanted to get into
refuel
that.
yourself.
Yes.
But yeah, we're not, a big part of the brand, I think, moving forward, especially as we grow, is going to be educating people on sugar. Like I can log into Twitter and I'm surrounded by Ray Peters, and, they all know sugar's good.
Yes.
I don't have to convince them, but my mom, who's been told that fat is bad and sugar is bad and all this, when she sees it on the shelf, she's going to be like, why is there sugar in this? I thought, why isn't this zero sugar? Or even people we, talk to about getting it into their hands or hands of their clients or whatever, they want to know about the sugar thing. And
Yes.
kind of what we've been telling people is, look, you need carbohydrates after strenuous activity. You need to refuel. Your body knows how to metabolize sugar. It is beneficial to you in every way. The thing that it is taking the flack for is the dyes, the stabilizers, the preservatives,
and the fake sugars. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you can say, oh, sugar's bad, but what they really mean is like cake is bad.
Yes.
Or donuts are bad, or like Starburst are bad.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, those things are bad, but they're bad because of the other things that are in them.
Right. I think Josh tweeted the other day that he thinks the only good thing about a donut is the sugar. The rest is what's disgusting about it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I tried sport drink a couple weeks ago with Case Bradford. He gave me a sip. It's really nice. Really nice. Yes, it tastes like what it should taste like. Like you can't compare that to citrus fuck element, whatever, it tastes fake,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things I want to get into. What do you love most about natural flavors?
I mean, if you ever see that on a label, just put whatever it is back on the shelf, because they can just put whatever they want in there.
Yes.
And yeah, it can start out as a natural thing, like a lemon, and then they soak it and extract it and blend it and turn it into other things combined with other things. And then they can legally say it's natural flavors because
Crazy.
it was natural at some point, like with the LMNT thing, they were hiding all that maltodextrin, like I think 400 times. I could be wrong. The amount that they had listed, it was either 40 or 400 behind the natural flavors, like liability shield. And that is just like case in point, testament to like what that phrase means.
Right.
Like you see that, it should mean we're going to put whatever we want in here and you don't get to know.
Exactly. Yes. I think that's the main problem of natural flavors. You will never know what it is.
Yeah, never. Until like somebody does an independent lab test and they're like, oh, hey, by the way, we found all this junk in there.
Right. Yeah. I feel like natural flavors is kind of the same idea, or kind of goes through the same process as like a seed oil does, right? Because a seed oil could be the oil of soybeans, but to extract that and to create that, you need 100 different ingredients and methods to do that. And that's
like bleach.
Right, exactly. I wouldn't be surprised there's bleach in natural flavors. It tastes like it.
Yeah, well, the thing you said about the taste a couple minutes ago, that it just tastes like how it should.
It tastes like a yummy, sparkling, sweet lemonade. That's it. Yeah.
And this is the crazy, mind-blowing concept about that. If you just actually use lemon and limes, then it's gonna taste like lemon and limes.
Right.
Like, how crazy is that? Like, who would have thought?
Yes.
But it's when they do like the lab-grown mold that they call citric acid, and they use that instead, that you're like, this sort of leaves a weird aftertaste. I wonder why. It couldn't possibly be because they're growing mold in vats and laboratories in some undisclosed location to try and replicate and make fun of God's perfect design.
Right. I love that. Yes.
So again, like we don't want any of that in our product. I don't want that for myself. So I'm not going to sell that to you. I'm not going to sell that to anybody. Like I'm keeping it simple. I'm keeping it real. And then lo and behold, it tastes good and it does what it's supposed to do.
Right. Yeah. I love that. At the start of what I was doing, I'm doing a hydration product as well, but it was originally a simple electrolyte formula. And I did not know about the whole natural flavors thing. I was going to start to work with a manufacturer and I was going to add natural flavors. And I fell for the natural flavors bullshit. And I really just thought, why not just use fruits? It's that simple.
Yeah.
And it tastes like so many times better. Many times better. Yeah. Sugar. Why do you love that so much?
Because it's yummy, dude.
Yeah.
Like, speaking of the natural flavors thing, or like keeping it simple, like sugar comes from a plant.
Yes.
And if you don't mess with it, it tastes fantastic and it has many, many benefits in your body.
Yeah.
And your body knows what to do with it, and it's helpful. And again, it's yummy.
Yes.
It's just like, trust your gut, trust God, honestly.
Trust nature. Yeah, exactly.
So look, I'm not as deep into the peat stuff as some people. I'm interested in it. I'm learning. Again, like I said, like I get onto a subject and I just dive into it. Like I'm in that realm right now. But it just makes sense.
Yes.
Like I'm not messing with God's design. I'm letting his wonderful creation do its tiny little job that it was designed to do. And I'm benefiting from it and I'm giving that gift to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of trying to circumvent that for marketing purposes, we're just using it for what it's meant to be used for.
Yes, I love that. Talking about Peters, I had a conversation with one of them 2 weeks ago, and he made this very interesting point about keto and sugar. I was just listening to the clip today. He was telling me about, if you see all of the people or tribe cultures that exist today, 90% of them, or whatever the percentage is, the main part of their diet is carbohydrates. We made the point that the more north you go, the less carbs you see. You have the Inuits that just eat meat, but they have a genetic expression or genetic whatever adaptation that goes more pro gluconeogenesis than pro ketogenesis. So they create sugar with meat, which is crazy. But that shows that directly that's nature telling you you need that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and look, I'm not an expert, but I was talking to somebody about the sugar thing, and they were like, why do you guys have sugar in here? I was like, look, we could take the sugar out of this and you could survive off of this, and your body would just switch over to ketosis and you would burn all the fat. But what it's doing is it's trying to make up for the fact that you're not ingesting sugar. Like that's why that's happening.
It's cope.
So if you think about it like from the flip side, like, okay, I'm forcing my body to switch gears from something that it is normally doing all the time.
Yeah.
Like why do I need to switch gears so hard out of that? I'm not saying like doing a water fast and getting into ketosis and burning a bunch of fat is a bad thing. I think it's great. Extended fasts are extremely helpful in a variety of ways, but trying to live your life like that, like opposing the way that your body functions, it's just unnecessary stress all the time. So again, like everything in moderation. I don't think it's necessarily like evil to be in ketosis, but we're just like, that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to convince people to be fasting from sugar all the time. Yes. Like you can use sugar to your benefit, especially if you're a high performing lifter, athlete, whatever. So that's interesting though about the Inuits being able to metabolize meat and turn it into sugar. That's
crazy. Cool. Yeah. I was going to ask something about. Oh yeah, baking soda. I'm curious about that ad. Is that just to make the experience sparkling, or did you think about something else?
No, that's part of the electrolyte mix. Baking soda has a lot of benefits that I won't go into here, but I mean, you can use it to clean, you can use it for digestion, you can use it for many different things, but it's basically sodium. You know, the fact that it sparkles when it combines with the citric acid, the real citric acid in the fruit that we have in the mix, is honestly like it was the icing on the cake.
Sparkles, what do you mean? Like sparkling or physically sparkles?
It fizzes. Like if you take the powder, if you take the powder and you add water into it, that chemical reaction creates a nice effervescent like drink. And we weren't planning on that. That was just like a happy accident where your pathway intersects with God's divine plan. Kind of thing,
I love that. Yeah.
So it's not just in there for like the sparkling aspect.
Mm-hmm. I love it. What has been your biggest takeaway creating sport drinks so far?
Okay. Well, the biggest hurdle that we've had is convincing or sourcing ingredients, materials that are not synthetic. Mm-hmm. Because you get into this industry and you're calling up different people that are supplying things for electrolyte mixes, and they're all used to selling stuff with maltodextrin in it, selling stuff with flow agents that are made from silicon dioxide or other synthetic ingredients. That's just industry standard.
Yeah.
So, and this kind of concept applies to anybody that is entrepreneurial or has an idea that they want to start a company. If you're trying to go against the grain, if you're trying to create something that has never been done before, or maybe it has been done before, but it's not currently being done, you are going to come up against pushback at every step of the way.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be from hate or distrust. It's going to be because the way that our world operates now is solely focused on profit margin, and that drives all product quality down, down, down. So you're going to come into a place and you're going to say, hey, I have this idea to do this thing without this synthetic ingredient. And they're going to say, well, we don't do that.
Yeah.
Why don't you use the synthetic thing like everyone else?
Yes.
You need to go look and find this somewhere else. So you end up calling 50, 100 different people. That's why it took us a year to even develop the product, you know? So I think that's kind of like that. As far as just like entrepreneurial, like any business you start, you're going to be a problem solver.
Yes.
You're going to have to be doing jobs that maybe you think you're not qualified for, or you're going to be engaging with industries or aspects of business that you are unfamiliar with. And as long as you are smart and you trust in yourself to solve problems, you will succeed. As long as you don't give up, you will succeed. As long as you find solutions, you will find success. But doing things the natural way, taking things back to basics, going against the grain is going to create more problems than normal. You know, for instance, I know you're doing supplements. It would be very easy for you to call a white label manufacturer and say, hey, I want to make a melatonin gummy. Yes. And they're going to be like, oh, well, we already have one in stock. All you need is your custom label and 50% of the cost up front, and then we'll deliver it wherever. But they're going to have all kinds of stuff in that you don't want. Yeah. So you're going to have to do it yourself, which means you're going to have to find all the pieces. You're going to have to put them all together. And it would be much easier for you to just be like, you know what? Like, it is what it is. Whenever you make a supplement, you have to have this, that, and the other in it, which, you know, nobody
almost
really
fell for that a couple times.
Yeah. And that's going to happen in any kind of business endeavor if you're going against the grain in some way. And what I'll say to that is, if you do have an idea, like I'm speaking kind of to your audience, if you do have an idea for a product that is going to take things back to basics or be less toxic or a healthier alternative, if you can push through that, you will find the millions of people that are looking for that.
Yes.
Because you can feel it. The vibe shift is happening. Like, it's been happening for a few years now, longer, obviously, in smaller circles. But if you can push through the BS and figure out a way to do it, like, it took us so long to figure out a way to make this not clump without using synthetic stuff. Like, I'm talking iteration upon iteration. And if any of your listeners have tried the product before, you'll know what I'm talking about. Like, it has clumped. Yes. And people are okay with that. They're okay with a clumping product because they know and they trust that there's not the extra BS in there, you know? Right. So you will find an audience that is more tolerant of you figuring out your way because they believe in the vision and they believe in what you're trying to do. So that's just kind of my encouragement. Like, it's always going to be an uphill battle. You're always going to be putting out fires and solving problems. And I learned that in the clothing manufacturing space, thankfully, but it's definitely been like exponentially more difficult to do a natural product like what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. This is kind of like a similar topic, but for, I think, kids, for folks my age that want to create, that want to go against your grain, And I think to make it easier, like, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Man, I feel like I've lived like 10 lives since then. So that's a difficult question. But I think if I was 18 again and as educated as I am now, if I wasn't, you need to learn as much as possible. Like you need to really find out what it is that you're passionate about
Yes.
and try not to diversify too much. I think that was probably my biggest mistake in my 20s is trying to do a ton of different things.
Okay.
Part of that was out of necessity. Like I just needed a paycheck, you know, and
Yes.
everybody's going to go through those seasons. So I don't regret it. And I learned a lot of things being involved in different kinds of businesses.
Yeah, you're here.
But think of yourself as an arrow. If you have points in all directions, if you have feathers in all directions, you're not going to fly through the air and hit your target. You're going to be too spread out. You're not going to be aerodynamic. Pick a lane, pick something, and just go with it. And if you have an idea, look, 18, you're super young. So if you have an idea and you run with it for 2 or 3 years and it fails, you're going to learn so much more and so much faster than some guy that's just flipping burgers or getting a paycheck sitting behind a computer doing somebody else's work. You know, being out there trying to build something yourself is going to teach you so much more than following some other person. And you might have to do that while you're working for somebody else. You might have to do it after work, before work, between classes, whatever. But that is, in my opinion, the best way to learn. I'm not going to push my son to go to college. I'm going to push him to start a business as soon as he's ready, because even if it fails, he's going to learn something and he's going to apply that to his next endeavor. So that's kind of my advice for the 18-year-olds. And I tell this to my brothers all the time, but if you really don't want to work for somebody else, if you don't want to have a boss, the best way to do that is to build something yourself. And it's going to be hard because you're going to have to be the boss and the employee and the accountant and the delivery driver and the web designer and the social media expert. You're going to have to be doing all of that. But through you doing all of those different things, you're going to get an education like none other. And you're going to meet people and you're going to network and you're going to grow. So that's kind of my advice.
Yeah, I love that. It was very well said, very well put. For my last question, what brings you most joy in life?
My son right now, he's a year and a half.
Wow.
It's absolutely incredible to watch him grow.
Yes.
It is crazy how much he has grown in this year and a half. Like, it's insane. Like, he doesn't even look like he looked when he was 6 months. He looks like a completely different kid. He's running around. He finds joy in everything. He's curious to a fault. He's got so much energy. He's happy to be alive, and it's reinvigorated me. And I would strongly suggest to your audience, find a good woman that aligns with your values. It will make your life so much easier, and get her pregnant as soon as possible.
Josh kind of talked about the same thing. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Look, I know people like want to have free time to do whatever. I've done all that. I've done the going out to parties. I've been a DJ. I've done the LA scene. And if I could wind back the clock, get married 10 years earlier and have a kid 10 years ago, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Wow. Why is that? Like, why?
Because aside from the relationships and the friendships that you make in that lifestyle, the nights of drinking, partying, being reckless, being aimless, nothing comes from that. Like I'm saying with the starting a business, like who do you think is going to learn more and get farther in life? The kid who starts a business when he's 18, or the kid who starts smoking weed and going out drinking every night? You know,
Right.
it's like I want people who share my values to have success, to build things for their families, to build things for me that I can enjoy, that are alternatives to the toxic stuff that I'm being force fed. I want our circle to win and stay winning.
Well,
So my advice is build a family, build a business, build the life how you want it to. Nobody is going to do that for you. If you're sitting around waiting for your shot or waiting for somebody to pull up and be like, hey, you look like you could be a movie star. If you're waiting for that, it's never going to happen. That's a 1 in a billion shot. You need to put your feet on the ground and get to work. That's my opinion.
I love it. Fuck yeah, Josh. That was really nice, bro. I appreciate you, dog. That was really, really nice. Thank you, bro.
Yeah. Like I said, if anybody has any questions about anything, just shoot me a DM. I'm happy to help in whatever way I possibly can.
Yes. Love it, bro. Thank you again for coming.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, man.